All right, this is my third attempt at this podcast in 2 days. And it didn't originally start off as a podcast. It started off as commentary on the whole Roy Moore and Al Franken political espionage that's going on. And I'll still get into that. But it ended up turning into this podcast, and I liked it. This is the best way for me to get the crucial information out in mass. And once you get into the flow of things, it comes out, better than you would put it anywhere else. So, what's going on with this Leanne Franken and, I'm sorry, not Leanne Franken, Al Franken and Roy Moore situation? Well, this is political espionage. And the New Republicans aren't very good at it, at least not yet. Or at least in this fashion, in this style. You had Roger Stone, who broke this Leanne Tweeden story, and she did not sell it. And Roger Stone has been involved in political espionage his whole career, essentially. He is known for that. He's known for political espionage. And he is a Nixon loyalist to the end, which is a recurring theme within this Trump administration. That's essentially who's behind it. The Nixon boys, which are hand in hand with the Jewish mob, and which I believe sold out to the Russians sometime in the late 80s, early 90s. Because the Russians, they stole out to nationalist factions of the Russians that ended up seizing power because that's what was supposed to happen. All right, I'll get into that a little bit later, but let's get back into Leanne Tweeden. I started off originally by covering her radio show, doing commentary on that, and I'm sorry, but you guys fucked up. No good, she didn't sell it. Come on, I don't know who was running that. I don't know who made the decision to break that on her radio show or initially talk about that on her radio show where she's comfortable. Yeah, she's laughing, she's smiling, she's cracking jokes. Where's the trauma? Where's the trauma? You should have broken on CNN. At least there she was a little naturally uncomfortable, and she sold it much better. Much better. And what's the left going to do? They're going to attack a sexual assault story? And don't get me wrong, you could easily sell this. An optical illusion of someone's hands on someone's breasts with the, forced kissing easily. Don Vito got sued for that, for taking pictures with his hands hovering over breasts, giving the optical illusion of him touching their breasts. So don't get me wrong, that's a real case. You could push that, especially with the leftist-controlled media. But they're not doing that because that is the old leftist-controlled. And that is collapsing 110%. We're seeing that happen. Anyway, you're seeing this mainstream media slant on it where they're kind of defending Al. But Leanne also gave them reason to, which is also another recurring theme with the Trump movement. She gave them reason to by laughing and smiling and cracking jokes when she broke it. That gives them a reason to go, well, she doesn't seem traumatized. At least the left. And, in the new right's defense, the left is seasoned at these grassroots harassment, sexual attack dog groups where they're going to say you're a rapist or whatever and get away with it. They're very good at that. They've been doing it for decades on decades. Anyway, so I was ending the previous podcast by stopping it where Leanne Tweeden says something very interesting, and I will insert that clip in this. She says that I told him after they did the rehearsed kiss, and she called them fish lifts and cracked jokes on a radio show, she said, if you ever do that again, there will be repercussions. And he never did it again. What does that prove to you? What does that show you? What is that saying? That is showing that she has equal rights as him. That she said, you don't do this again, and he didn't do it again. And to me, that's proof of equal rights, And then he took the optical illusion photograph. And then you have this interesting paradigm where the sophisticated propaganda arms of the New Republicans, such as Infowars, you got Jones living in this bizarre paradigm of defending pedophilia behavior. Roy Moore trying to have sex with 14-year-old girls. That's pedophilia behavior in today's standards. 110% pedophilia behavior versus an optical illusion photograph. And a rehearsed kiss. And again, don't get me wrong, they could push that. If it was the left, that would easily be pushed. Because you're lumping in women getting their knee touched with 14-year-old boys getting raped by grown men. And again, that's what this whole purge is about. I like to call it the Hollywood purge. They're going after these Weinstein characters and even Pappy Bush. And what they're doing is they're covering up the worst of it, because with this new Republican establishment comes with the narrative of the pedophile elite and these pedophile rings. Okay? Millions of people know about that now. They have to clean it up somewhat. They have to give you the illusion that there's been something done about it. So, for example, with Hollywood, with Weinstein and Kevin Spacey, they get a couple of them. Man, we got a pedophile that was going after boys, and then we got this man that was abusing women. And trust me, Weinstein was not just abusing women. Okay, there's a lot worse going on there, but they're using that as as a veil to cover the pedophilia behavior. They're going to say, look, we cleaned it out. Hollywood's good now. Yeah, there used to be pervs in there, but there's not anymore. Yeah, that's true, but we cleaned it out. Same thing with like the Pappy Bush situation. George Bush Sr. He's been involved in some real evil shit. Way worse than touching females' asses or touching the backside of females in a photograph. They're using that to go, yeah, Pappy Bush was, he was kind of a perv too, but he wasn't doing any of that pedophilia stuff. No. He was grabbing women's asses during photographs. You see what they're doing here? So I like to call it the Great Purge. And by the way, you have this Trump movement, this new Republican movement, and the reason I'm focusing on them so much, if you don't understand that the left is... Here's how I like to look at it. The left, 110% Jewish run. You can look that up. George Soros, Jewish. All of Hillary's donors, Jewish, essentially. At least their top ones, 110%, are Jewish. So, and ever since the late 1800s, 1870s, 1890s, when the influx of Jews came to America, they immediately started pushing the radical left-wing agenda. And the reason for that is it is an immediate destruction party. These people want to destroy this once white nation. They want to destroy it so they can rebuild it in their own image, where they have more control, exactly how they want it. Sort of like they're doing in Europe right now. So you got the American Jews that are pushing that leftist agenda. Then you have the real Eastern European Russian Jews pushing the nationalist agenda. Now, if I wanted to control way too many people to count, masses of people, how would I control them? I would go the Aldous Huxley route. I would go the Brave New World route, and I would make them love their enslavement. I would say, look, this is nationalism. We're fighting for you. For you. And then when Steve Bannon says himself and, in public speeches, all we care about is winning, nothing else matters, he truly means that. He doesn't care who was in his ranks. He doesn't care who helped him to get to where he's at. He doesn't care what illegal activity happened, what crime syndicates helped him, who financed what. That all comes later. You have to push their agendas later. And a good understanding, or a good example of who the hidden hand is go ahead and take a look at the Project for the New American Century and Clean Break Jewish Hit Lists. Project for the New American Century, Rebuilding America's Defenses paper called for 9/11. 9/11 happened. And even before 9/11, you had them writing letters to Clinton, and he went ahead and bombed Iraq because that's what they were asking for. Then you had, Bush. Of course, he's the only guy that could have done, allowed 9/11 to happen like it did. And they, 9/11, and then systematically those countries have been removed from Clinton to Bush to Obama and now Trump. They have all followed the same Jewish hit lists. That's how you know, Republican or Democrat, left or right, they have the same master. Speaking of masters and hidden hands, Jared Kushner and the Trump administration is a big one. And that's where the Russian connection via Saudi Arabia is going to be found. Okay? There's going to be a huge amount of collusion with him. And, before I was walking out of the house today, I saw CNN talking about Jared Kushner, Russian collusion. What? They'll never get into Saudi Arabia, though. You got stuff going on there like Vladimir Putin buying Adnan Khashoggi's house. And Adnan Khashoggi was a huge part of the Iran-Contra. And Donald Trump bought a yacht from Adnan Khashoggi. Okay, Iran-Contra happened during Reagan's administration, and Reagan is a Council for the National Policy type, which was founded by a Nixon loyalist. And I will get into that later. That is a huge driving factor behind Trump. It's essentially all the same Jewish mob. So the Russian Jews will give you the narrative of nationalism, and we're defending you. Meanwhile, it's causing destabilization so they can rebuild you. They all have the same endgame, left or right. And I almost think they made the left so ridiculous on purpose that there had to be a counter movement. There had to be something to get people to get out in the streets and protest. There had to be something so ridiculous that there had to be a counter movement. And that counter movement was a new Republican movement, which has been around since, late 80s. Or I should say 80s. But it wasn't as controlled back then. You had mainstream mainstream factions like the Reagan administration, but you had little militia factions and, little Tea Party groups that were not as controlled. Now it's very controlled. Now the whole movement is controlled. Yeah, so let's get into the Council for the National Policy. What is it? It was founded by another Nixon loyalist, Pat Buchanan. Okay? Like Buchanan, Roger Stone was a Nixon loyalist, and like Roger Stone, Frank Gannon was a Nixon loyalist, and that is Alex Jones's handler. That's who turned Bill Hicks into Alex Jones. And I don't care if you don't like that, that's just what it is, and I will prove that to you. Alex Jones is 110% Bill Hicks, and the Nixon connections runs through that as well. Not to mention the mountain of physical evidence, from the same lazy eye to the same facial biometrics, limp, mannerisms. There's 100. Go look at the pinned comment under my Bill Hicks video. Those are all things you can look up for yourself. Alex Jones is 110% Bill Hicks. I think Orange Drink killed Bill Hicks. And he doesn't like that. I'll tell you that right now. All that man cares about is his legacy. Both those legacies. He wants those two separate legacies, and he wants them both. And it's been hard for me. Who am I to go after this Goliath? Who am I to go after this man, even though he's extremely deceptive? And I think that's the main reason we can't do anything, because there's these controlled opposition groups that are guiding the opposition into the slaughter. It's a Judas goat, essentially. It's guiding us right to the slaughter. When Hillary Clinton says there's an information warfare going on and we're losing it, she's not lying. When Hillary Clinton says that there's a right-wing conspiracy that's been trying to sabotage my husband since he was in office or since he was running, that's not a lie, She's, don't get me wrong, she's just a pile of dog shit, essentially. But she's not lying when she says that. She lies about all the time, but she's not lying about those specific things. The vast right-wing conspiracy is the Council for the National Policy. Okay, it's Nixon. It's the Nixon people. Pat Buchanan, a Nixon loyalist to the end, like Roger Stone and like Frank Gannon, created, and I'll get into Frank Gannon in a second, created the Council for the National Policy. And they masquerade as a ultra-conservative Tea Party movement, essentially. Tea Party think tank type of thing. But they're not. They're crime elements, and I'll tell you right now, I think the Texas police are involved. Austin for sure. And when you see Millie Weaver on the street getting helped up by the Austin police, she doesn't understand it. Infowars is in bed with, the crime elements that, the police are a part of. They're in bed with the crime elements that the police are a part of. And the police will help them out. The guy that was doing it didn't really know either. He just got higher up. Oh, that's Infowars. You help them out. They're good people. They're our allies. You help them out. And he does. And that's how that works. You got Owen Schroyer. I don't think he knows much. I think he's under basic forms of mind control. I really feel sorry for him. I don't think he really knows what he's involved with. He doesn't really know who his boss is. I try to help him out, try to give him information, but, man, even going back to when he had his Engage at Liberty show before he took the Infowars job, I called in there, I told him, dude, there's an agent in place card, look at this thing. Just look at this thing before you take this job. It came out in 1995, and by the way, Alex Jones didn't show up until 96. This came out in 90, it was created in 94, came out in 95. It is Alex Jones, but with Bill Hicks' ears. Take a look at it. And, he made an interesting comment during that phone call. He said, I'll never understand things like the inside of a courtroom, like what goes on inside a courtroom. Like, courtrooms are well known for Masons giving hand signs and working the case, without anybody else knowing. And I think there's a lot of that going on with Infowars. You got Jack Blood's, or I think that's his name, Jack Blood's testimony about working for Infowars and the sensationalization, courtrooms are well known for Masons giving hand signs and working the case, without anybody else knowing. And I think there's a lot of that going on with Infowars. You got Jack Blood's, or I think that's his name, Jack Blood's testimony about working for Infowars and the sensationalization, the sensationalizing things, the propaganda arm, the Lord, my Lord, Alex has, he will sell out. As Bill Hicks, he said that. I sold out, I sold out. There's other options. They're not mainstream. They're going to take a while. I sold out. I took the job. Admits it. Right through Nixon, right there. That little crime syndicate. That little faction that has seized power. So what do we do about it? Do we go along with it, or do we expose it as the same thing that it is? And, there used to be, probably still is, things like money laundering going on, all kinds of criminal things going on down there. Texas is a well-known mind control center. It has been for a long time, especially sophisticated operations. So anyway, back to the Council for the National Policy. It masquerades as a right-wing movement, as a ultra-conservative right-wing movement. Essentially a Tea Party think tank, more or less. And you got cross-membership with the Trump administration, tons of it. Huckabee, his new speaker, the lady with the cross eyes, her family is heavily involved in the Council for the National Policy. And like I said, it was founded by Pat Buchanan, a Nixon loyalist. The Nixon connection runs through this strongly. And the Council for the National Policy essentially is just a front group. It's a front group for some want to say the CIA. I tend to lean more towards the more privatized Jewish mob situations. And the Council for the National Policy is hand in hand with... Okay, so a good way to look at the Council for the National Policy is like the CFR. It's essentially the same thing. It's on a much smaller scale, or at least it was. It's growing, But you had cross-membership from the Council for the National Policy and the CFR. So that's another telling sign that these are the most polar opposite rhetoric groups, the left and the right. Their rhetoric is different, but they have the same membership. They'll work for the CFR and the Council for the National Policy. You'll have people like Alex Jones shilling for Ted Cruz, whose wife works for the CFR, and Ted Cruz is most likely a CNP guy. By the way, you also had Cambridge Analytica and SCL Group dumping their resources into Ted Cruz. As soon as they switched to Trump, so did Jones. Are they working together? No way, they couldn't be working together. Alex Jones couldn't be working with the military-style PSYOPs company, the company that uses military-style PSYOPs on domestic populations. The country, or the privatized corporation that uses data mining and micro-targeting. You have no idea the mind control the Trump movement went through. 110% mind control. And through Cambridge Analytica and SCL Groups, the admitted PSYOPs, private mind control corporations that just, by the way, they just got defense deals through the United States government because they helped them out. That's how it works. And if you look into it, they're NATO involved. They're really, you listen to quotes from ex-people before Robert Mercer owned it. It was very MI6. It's like working for MI6 for hire. There's probably MI6 agents involved, probably defense company agents involved. It's a real. Actually, they had it was called a List X, a secret clearance for the British government. So they're definitely dealing with the intelligence agencies. There's a solid connection. Like I said, they're private mind control operations like Infowars. It's a crime element that owns a private corporation that seizes power. Look, they've seized power. But then there's higher levels, and it's the same people that you cross contamination. You got Council for the National Policy members that are CFR members as well. You got Alex Jones shilling for Ted Cruz, whose wife was a CFR member. Analytica and SCL dumped all their resources into Ted Cruz' brother. Deep state, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. You're working with the rebel, I'm sure. I'm sure your little front company for him. Are they working together? So did Infowars. Are they working together? I don't know. And by the way, aggregate IQ in Canada, you're working with the rebel, I'm sure. I'm sure your little front company for him. We'll take your data, we're big brother. Deep state, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. Same people, same thing, same illegal activity, same manipulation, same deception, same I won't touch the Federal Reserve. And guess what? Look at the taxes going up. Look at the taxes going up for the middle class. Who is he serving? Who is he helping out? Yeah, SCL and Cambridge Analytica. And by the way, Mercer just stepped down from his hedge fund spot at Renaissance Technology with, his co-CEO is James Harris Simons, who was a Jew that was a top Hillary supporter, I believe number 2 or 3. So, talk about divide and conquer. You got co-CEOs funding both oppositions, both sides. Just splitting the division right there, capitalizing right on that, Man, look at them getting, jobs, getting huge jobs. They know what they're doing. And that's how it works. You help them out, they can do whatever they want. You have to make deals like this. You have to be involved in a lot of illegal shit to get to where these people have gotten, to get in the, in the White House. And then you got Jerome Corsi, they got, Infowars got a White House press pass, and Jerome Corsi, of course, got it, and that is on the list of CNP members, a known CNP guy. It works for, and then WND, which Infowars loves to push CNP. Okay, it's the same stuff. JBS talks about JBS all the time, pushes JBS rhetoric like crazy. Admits he's deep state. I mean, what more do you want? I got a video where he says, I'm deep state. I got a video where he says, yeah. His guy says, political Zionists, they have the power. He goes, yeah, what are you going to do about it? We talk about it more now, but, it doesn't help. It doesn't help to name the enemy. I'd rather give out a red herring. I'd rather say globalism. What tribe is globalism? Oh, it's the Jews. Look, they're all Jewish. George Soros is a Jew? Really? I thought he was a white guy. Mark Zuckerberg is a Jew? Wolf Blitzer's a Jew? The 6 parent companies of the mainstream media are Jewish owned? What? CNN, Jewish president? Hollywood, all Jews? What? Since when did Jews control everything? And Alex Jones will never name the Jew. Will never even say Zionist. Come on, Bill. By the way, I still think orange drink killed Bill Hicks. It's just a fact. I don't care if you like it, and I'm going to prove it to you. I am absolutely 110% going to prove it to you. Getting back into Michael Aquino, that guy just total mind control expert. And he coins the information warfare, and it's exactly what Alex Jones does. Come on. Very similar, very similar. It is what it is. That's what it is. It's what Michael Aquino wrote about. And if you know who that guy is, named pedophile, mind control handler, it fits right in the genre. And we talk about the Trump
pedophile connections, and there is. A quote from him from 2002, Jeffrey Epstein is a good friend of mine. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Jeffrey Epstein is a good friend of mine. It said that he likes young women, I think, or women, just as much as I do. Or almost as much as I do. What? He wasn't a convicted pedophile yet. He went to parties and stuff. And then you look at Trump and his daughter, and it gets weird. Weird. You got his 15-year-old daughter grinding on him. I'll tell you what, I think these people get sick of whatever they want, and then they want what they're not supposed to have. I think that's what happens with the bull cult. And I think these people are it's the cult of the bull, essentially, in my opinion. It's Oxford. It's about domination. It's about absolute power. It's about trampling your enemy, and then doing whatever it takes to do what your agenda is, to do what you want. That's what it's all about. It's about trampling people. It's about running through the streets.
But it makes sense. Don't get me wrong, it makes much more sense than the left. It has to be there. There's two sides to every coin. You have to have two sides to fight each other. Otherwise, divide, weaken, rule doesn't work. So, let's get into SCL Group and Cambridge Analytica a little bit. SCL Group is the father or parent organization to Cambridge Analytica. And you look at what SCL Group is, and it's essentially MI6 for hire, as its ex-employees would say. It's like working for MI6. And by the way, even before they started working with Trump, they had secret clearance for the British government. They had a List X, I believe it was, clearance, a secret clearance. So they were working hand in hand with MI6 agents. And they have MI6 agents within their ranks. And also defense company agents within their ranks, or employees, I should say. And they specialize in using military-style psyops on domestic populations. That's who these people are. They don't care about anything but winning. They don't care what illegal stuff they do. They don't care who's in their ranks. And you have people who truly believe in what they're fighting for. You have people on the right, the new right, that truly believe in the movement and truly think that there's no hidden hand behind them, that it's not the same people controlling them. Same thing on the left. That's the only way you can have those two entities work. But, you have the very few, the two guys that really know the deception, that misguide people. Again, the Judas goats that lead everybody else to the slaughter. The two deceivers, or even one in some cases. You need very few compartmentalized people to control these movements. It's very simple, and that's how it works. And the Jewish crime elements, Jewish mob, openly, will show that they're running both factions. Anyway, back to SCL Group. They just got their first United States defense contracts. That's how it works. You help me out, I help you out. We don't know how corrupt this organization. I do know that they're using military-style psyops on domestic populations. That's no good to me. That's a huge red flag. That's no. You're doing illegal shit, I already know. And you're evil. I mean, anybody who's going to manipulate people with military-style psyops are not looking out for your best interests, okay? It might make absolute sense on the surface, but once you have that nationalist movement and everybody trusts it, look, everything's good, the economy's good, even though that's the Federal Reserve, that has nothing to do with Trump, either the Federal Reserve or war activity, and then they can push whatever agenda they want. We collected all your data, but it's okay because we're good. We're nationalists. We're looking out for you. We're not the left. It's another deception. How many people are going to admit they've been lied to themselves when they go from the mainstream? Oh shit, I've been lied to about everything. Then they're on this information warfare camp. They're on this new Republican camp, and it makes a lot of sense. But then you start scratching the surface and, man, am I lied to here too? Am I being lied to? Why aren't they naming these Jews? All these globalists are Jews. How many people are going to admit that they've been lied to again? Very few people. But I'll still try to wake people up. It's such a deception. And like the Bible said, the deceptions will be so great, and they are. This is one of the first of the many just unbelievable deceptions. You'll never get some people to see through this. Despite the fact that there's blatant Jewish mob connections and illegal activities and military-style psyops, and it's the same people running it, So you see them get their first defense contract, and that's how it works, and they'll continue to get jobs. And by the way, they gave them the defense contract based on national security. Nobody else could even bid for it based on national security. See, they're using the same tactics as the old left that controlled for many decades. By the way, they are crumbling, they're collapsing, and Jones is sweating about it. I shouldn't keep saying Jones, but I look at him as a figurehead. He's essentially who got Trump elected, in my opinion. The new right is sweating about it because it's going to take probably 70 years for them to rebuild their strength, but they're going to be even more grassroots than they were before. The new left is going to be even more grassroots than the new right, the new Republicans. Because if you really look at the new Republicans, they're not that grassroots. You had operations like Infowars and Breitbart, these obvious sophisticated domestic propaganda operations pushing these things. Controlling your mind, using NLP to get you to think a certain way. Not naming who's really in control. Whether it be for money or a different agenda. And let's get into what Infowars is. What is information warfare? The short definition of information warfare is a propaganda war waged via electronic media. That's exactly what Infowars is. And by the way, information warfare was a term coined by Michael Aquino. I hope you guys know who that is. That is a general in the United States Army, high-level general that was an expert at mind control, an expert at disinformation, an expert at psychological warfare. Very decorated, highly decorated. He was also a named pedophile and a named mind control handler. It was rumored that he made the tape of his time for how to control a mind control slave. He was the man producing those videos. I totally believe it. I think that's probably 110% true. Anyway, he coined the term information warfare in the late 70s, early 80s through things like the Stanford Institute, Tavistock Institute. It's the same thing. The people who manipulate our society, who manipulate your brain. He worked through them, and it was so ahead. The man was so ahead of his time. Oh, I forgot to mention, he founded the Temple of Set. He was also an open Satanist. Okay, and then you see lower level people who have gone through that go, no, it's not really bad. It's just really intellectual. No, it's compartmentalized like any other, secret society. You're not going to know anything as an initiate. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Anyway, he coined the term information warfare in the late 70s, early 80s, and there's a long description of what it is, but he was talking about, propaganda wars waged basically via online. In the late 70s, early 80s, they didn't have that. So what was that man tapping into? He's talking about propaganda wars, use of mind control techniques waged via the internet in the late 70s, early 80s. What is that man smoking? What was he tapped into? He was tapped into something. I'll tell you that right now. And I think Alex Jones is also tapped into something. Also, I heard some people mention mind control with him. MK Ultra, trauma-based mind control with a K, control. It comes from the Nazis, comes from Germany. That would add quite a bit of spice to the story. I've never really taken that into consideration. Was Bill Hicks under MK Ultra? I think Joe Rogan is. I certainly think Joe Rogan is, and he doesn't even know it. What's funny about him? At least he'll say Zionist government. Alex Jones will never say that. And just look at, why do you think Alex Jones and Joe Rogan are friends? Joe Rogan will go, I go out and drink beer with him, and he's still crazy, and just calls him crazy. Why? In what reality would those two be friends if they didn't previously know each other? And then go ahead and listen to what Joe Rogan has to say about Bill Hicks, the comedian. He really looked up to him. He looked at how he could bomb and just take it. And that's what it takes to do this stuff. I'll tell you right that you take a lot of abuse doing this stuff, especially for him starting in 1996. Come on, you had Bill Cooper before him. That was it. And by the way, that's another way you can know who Alex Jones really is. Just listen to Bill Cooper's opinion about him. So, yeah, and that's a future series of videos I'm going to do. I'm just going to completely lay it out for you because and by the way, don't judge your opinion based off of the comments, because that's what you see with these videos. And I know how it works because I posted them. I know how organic commenting works and organic likes and dislikes work. With the Bill Hicks videos, it doesn't work organically. You'll get these waves of, they're obviously bots. Some of them are called Squabblebot. That's literally what their name is, and I've seen that one multiple times. They come in waves, and they all comment a variant of the same thing. I think they're using like an old system or something, and then they'll pump the dislikes down. So people go, oh man, no one else believes this? I don't believe it either. It's this herd mentality. Like I said, even in the conspiracy camp, you're going to have this herd mentality still. Alex Jones is 110% Bill Hicks. Orange drink killed Bill Hicks. And I didn't want to turn this into a thing about Bill Hicks. I want to get more into the things like the Nixon connection. And by the way, I know I'm all over the place. There's just so much information in my brain I want to get out. Sammy Davis Jr. was photographed with Michael Aquino, hung out with Michael Aquino, was a high-level Satanist in the Church of Satan with Anton LaVey. Now, Aquino, LaVey, and Sammy Davis Jr. were all named as mind control handlers and pedophiles. Okay, I think that's very true. Sammy Davis Jr. also worked under the Nixon administration. Okay, and that's who these, essentially the people from the Nixon administration that got in bed with the Jewish mob and sold out to them, to the nationalist ideal. So they sold out. Basically what happened is you had these people like Pat Buchanan, like Frank Gannon, like Roger Stone, okay, who after, and it was the left back then still, it's the same faction, it was the same left that brought Nixon down, and you see them with this Uranium One scandal claiming it's the modern day Watergate, okay? They put these little things in here, these little Easter eggs for people like me who understand what's going on. You had those guys, Frank Gannon, Roger Stone, Pat Buchanan, you had them get crushed by the left back with Watergate. They crushed everything. What do they do? This country's so backwards, so they go ahead and they find the people talking about nationalism. It happens to be a movement over in Russia that they get in bed with. It's a Jewish mob, and they sell out to them. Oh yeah, we'll be Russian double agents as long as we can push nationalism. And they truly believe in what they're pushing, okay? They think they're on the right side. No, it's the same hidden hand at the highest levels. Another interesting man is Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn was Trump's mentor, okay? He was a lawyer, he was a mobster, he was Jewish, and he was a homosexual. And he knew all the Nixon boys, Manafort, Roger Stone. Actually, I don't think Manafort worked, but Manafort was friends with a lot of Nixon people. Anyway, there's a movie about Roy Cohn, and there's books. It's just hard. I got to go through his autobiography. That's going to take some time, and it's hard reading books when you're not super into it, but I'm going to have to, because there's probably some golden information in there. But anyway, in this movie of his life, he is so worried that everybody has betrayed him. Everybody has sold him out. That's what, he's in the hospital dying of AIDS in the beginning of the movie, and he thinks everybody betrayed him. Everybody sold him out. Because they did. They did. He was, and Roy Cohn was an interesting man. He was the lawyer, helped McCarthy during the Red Scare. which they're doing. See, this is what's funny about these people. They'll take what, the left will take what the right did. Or I'm sorry, Roy Cohn was a leftist. So back then with the Red Scare, the left is doing that now, but he was Donald Trump's mentor. See, they sold him out. So Roy Cohn helped McCarthy during the Red Scare. With the Rosenbergs, he was helped with that case, got them in the electric chair. He was also known to work the controlled opposition, to work the communist-controlled opposition. That's what we see going on today. These are experienced control opposition people. Roy Cohn was also a homosexual and was very homophobic. He was also a named pedophile and was known for recording the blackmail tapes, people's blackmail tapes. And Alex Jones, aka Bill Hicks, has one. Roger Stone has one. Donald Trump has one. They all have one. And by the way, these people that are propping up, these evangelical, super ultra conservatives that are propping up people like Roger Stone, come on, guys. That's Roger Stone. That man helped Trump get in office. He's a good man. He's a sexual deviant in their minds. He's open about swinging, but they won't talk about that. If they heard that, even though that's an admitted fact, they would go, "Oh no, that's just leftist propaganda." That's another issue. Both sides. No, fake news. Nope, not real, fake news. Even though Cambridge Analytica, that's real. They're using domestic military style psyops on you, but it's liberal fake news. That's the division. That's where you got Russia, which is the Jewish crime elements. Nobody denies that the Jewish mob runs Russia. You have them destabilizing this country so they can rebuild this country exactly how they want it. And you do that by dividing, weakening, and conquering. And by the way, that Third World War is coming up pretty damn quick. And it's going to be in this country this time. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's going to be in this country this time. Sorry to tell you, this country is getting leveled this time. And when that happens, I'm hopping right up on my horse and rattling my saber. I don't care. I'm sick of this shit. It needs to change. This country does need to get gutted. It needs to be rebuilt. It is so corrupt. The left and the right, even the new right, it's all corrupt. It's all run by crime elements, and they all happen to be Jewish at the highest levels. Because when you control the money supply and the debt, you control everything. Everything. Think about it. You print the money, you control everything. That's how it works. That's what the Templars did. That's what the Templars did. They took their model. They also took their model of worshiping evil entities that will make them rich, give them absolute power. See, that's what these psychopaths are about. They're about absolute power. They're about controlling you. They're about, I don't care about anything else besides winning. I don't care who's in my ranks. I don't care who it takes to get me to where I'm at. Get me to where I'm at, and I'll pay you later. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Jewish mob, help me out. I'll help you out. Alright, so this ended up being a little shorter than I wanted. Hopefully I got to some interesting information for you. Like I said, this was my third attempt at this, and I just want to get one out. Let me know what you think. I'll try to do these as much as I can now, and I could probably do, I could fill each show with different information based on what's, going on in the news right now, because it's such an information assault, which is also by design. So, everything's old news within a day. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like it, share it if you liked it, leave me a comment, and you guys have a good one.